Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com, answering your Week 11 fantasy football questions. As, of course, Week 11 starts tonight. We have the game on 97.3 ESPN. It's Browns and Steelers. Jeff, welcome back, and I guess we'll start there. The Browns have been disappointing. Steelers' offense hasn't been very good either. So who's active from tonight's Thursday night matchup?
Yeah, this is a good matchup. I think both teams, it's a good rivalry. Got a good divisional matchup. Both teams there's playoff implications for both. I think that you start with a ground game for both teams. Pittsburgh, James Conner's back in action. He's a running back 2. Nick Chubb for Cleveland's a running back 1. I think Kareem Hunt's also a solid flex option. Still get 4 teams on a bye. Wide receivers, you got plenty of guys for the Steelers, but they're more of a wide receiver 2/flex. You got Juju as a wide receiver 2. Deontay Johnson and James Washington are both kind of flex plays. Washington got more targets, but Johnson got more snaps. And Vance McDonald's always an option. And for Cleveland, you got OBJ and Landry, a solid wide receiver, too. Again, get them in there if you can, but don't expect too much on a game that's probably going to be a little bit lower scoring.
All right, don't forget Week 11 starts tonight. Get your guys active if you're in the Thursday night game. I got to play Baker Mayfield this week because Russell Wilson's on the bye. Hopefully he gives me a little something. Let's look at the quarterbacks this week. Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com. Let's go to Kirk Cousins. He's been pretty good, but Denver's got a good defense, but they're on the road. So Kirk Cousins in or out?
He's more of an out than an in. He's a quarterback 2 this week against Denver. They have a decent secondary, plus no Thielen. So you're looking for a big ground game out of Dalvin Cook this week for the Vikings in a game that could be, 23-6 kind of score.
All right, are we giving up on Jared Goff? I mean, he was kind of a QB2 last year, but he is really struggling, and they got the Bears this week.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup, and his offensive line is falling apart. He doesn't have Brandon Cooks. He's in the quarterback 2 category as well. Pickups, any guy named Allen is probably good. You got both Kyle and Josh Allen that are pretty decent plug-and plays this week if you can pick those guys up.
All right, we're starting to believe in Derek Carr and the Raiders. I got the Bengals this week, so is that a must-play?
I think he is. He's a top 10 quarterback on the list. He's playing well. He's getting the ball to guys that can catch it. Darren Waller's a solid option. You got Williams as well. I think Derek Carr is finally feeling pretty good. He's a solid quarterback 1 this week.
All right, Jeff, we'll throw one more quarterback your way and get your opinion on Jimmy Garoppolo. They lost. He didn't have his best game. They got Arizona this week. Are you going back to Jimmy G?
Jimmy G is more in the quarterback 2 category. He's losing wide receivers. He lost Emmanuel Sanders. Kittle at tight end is not going to be active probably. So one of my sleepers is Deebo Samuel to pick up this week as a wide receiver 3 with a little bit of upside. But San Francisco's probably going to run the ball a lot with Devin Coleman and maybe Matt Breida if he's healthy. If not, you got Mostert as a decent pickup and plug him in as a running back flex.
Okay, with San Francisco, Breida is questionable. What's the running back situation look like in San Fran?
Yeah, Raheem Mostert's the guy to pick up. He's probably going to be the guy that picks up carries there. He'll probably get about 25 to 30% of the action. Maybe you have Jeff Wilson who might get a few snaps near the goal line, but I think Mostert is the guy to pick up and plug in against Arizona, which is a good matchup. Todd
Gurley is the tread off the tires there.
Yeah, it's the Bears. It's a tough matchup. The Gurley's getting good action, but he's got a tough matchup this week. They're mixing up the backfield as well with Brown. Gurley's more of a running back, too, with not a lot of upside this week.
Jordan Howard scored a lot of touchdowns. Patriots gave up a lot of yards on the ground last we saw them. So, Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders, what do you think of those guys?
I think those guys are running back 2s with upside. I think that's the way the Eagles are going to have to attack New England, keep Tom Brady on the sideline, run the ball a ton. It was very successful against the Bears. They're going to be without a lot of wide receiver options. Jeffrey's very questionable. They'll have 2 tight end formations, probably go 2 running backs, 2 tight ends a lot. I think both Howard and the rookie are definite plays this week at running back 2.
All right. We saw Joe Mixon have a decent day finally last week for the first time. Can he do it back-to-back weeks?
He's playable this week. I wouldn't put him above running back 2. He's going to get volume. So anytime you got a guy who's going to be seeing 15 to 20 touches a week, he's playable, but not a lot of upside against Oakland. That's a good defense playing well, and Cincinnati's just really bad right now.
All right, don't forget you can text your questions in for Jeff, 609-403-0973. Ryan and Jeff are compiling those questions right now. We'll ask you those in a minute. Brian Hill, is he on the fantasy scene?
He's the number 1 pickup at running back this week. Carolina is the worst defense for running back fantasy points against. So Brian Hill is a great plug-and-play as a running back, too. He's not got a ton of upside because Atlanta still was going to want to throw the ball. But Brian Hill saw a lot of volume last week with Freeman out, and he's going to see a lot of touches again this week.
Let's go to the wide receivers and see what Jeff thinks. 609-403-0973 is the text board. Mohamed Sanu, Eagles secondary, a mess. And, of course, Sanu is a new guy, so how does he fit into fantasy lineups?
He saw a lot of targets last week, and he's kind of the virtual tight end. He's a big receiver, works well out of the slot. They're going to get him the ball a lot over the middle. He's a wide receiver 3 with some upside. Again, the Eagles have some issues with the secondary, but they've gotten better the last few weeks. I like him as a solid option this week as a wide receiver 3.
Christian Kirk had a monster game last week, and he duplicated against the Niners, though.
Yeah, that's a tough matchup. I think Arizona's going to have to throw the ball, but I think that Larry Fitzgerald's, he's their top option. He's more in the flex category. Christian Kirk is a wide receiver 2. He's seen the off coverage. He's seen that second corner, so he's going to see more volume. He had great positions last week and great performance, but it's kind of hard to replicate. Wide receiver 2, not a ton of upside, but Arizona gets to throw the ball.
All right, let's find out about let's go to Robert Woods. You mentioned Goff. What about Woods this week? You mentioned Cook's out. Does that help or hurt Woods?
It's a tough matchup for the Rams against the Bears. I think Woods is a solid wide receiver 2 just on volume. We saw that the defense last week really took away their best option with Cooper Kupp. He's also a wide receiver 2. Both guys are wide receiver 2 with not a lot of upside against a very tough Bears defense.
All right, let's see some questions from the listeners. There's a lot of questions, of course. Week 11, let's try to help them out. What do you got?
All right, Jeff, one of our listeners would like to ask you to pick 2 running backs of the following: Phillip Lindsay, Brian Hill, David Johnson, and Joe Mixon in a PPR league.
I think Joe Mixon just on volume. Then I go probably Hill over Lindsay. Lindsay would be a close call. In a PPR league, I'm going to lead towards Lindsay just because he gets more passes out of the backfield. All those guys are in the running back 2 category.
All right, Jeff, I'm going to have to pick 2 here. Kareem Hunt, Ronald Jones, or Jarvis Landry.
I like Landry for volume and PPR. I think Ronald Jones is seeing a lot of upside. He's got a lot of potential. He's caught a lot of passes in the backfield. I think he caught 7 passes last week. Those are my 2.
All right. Would you start Mohamed Sanu or Jordan Howard? I assume in a flex spot.
Jordan Howard, in a PPR league, I'm obviously going with Sanu. I think Sanu's got more potential upside. Jordan Howard, if you're looking for a high floor, I go Howard. If you're looking for more upside, I go Sanu.
All right, Jeff, would you trade away Singletary and Hunter Henry for Le'Veon Bell?
No. Le'Veon Bell's getting a lot of work, but he's not getting a lot of production. He's gotten very low yards per carry and yards per reception. He's getting tons of volume, but I think you got better production. I'd really take Henry almost alone as a top 5 tight end, which are hard to find right now.
How about choosing defenses here between the Rams defense or the Baltimore Ravens defense this week?
Well, that's a great matchup for the Ravens this week, but not for their defense. I think the Rams are going to do well against the Bears. The Bears have not been doing well on offense. The Rams are a top 3 defense this week.
All right, Kyle Allen or Kyler Murray?
That's a good one. I think I would go with Kyle Allen against Atlanta. Atlanta really stepped up last week against the Saints, but I think Kyle Allen's looking pretty good. I'd go with Kyle Allen right now.
All right, last one may or may not be from a host at this station, Jeff. McCole Hardman, Deontay Johnson, or Jamison Crowder as a wide receiver 2?
I think Crowder just on volume. It's a tough one, but it's really hard to go against Kansas City wide receiver. I'm going to go with Kansas City wide receiver. I think Hardman he's got that explosive upside. He can catch a ball. He can go 50 yards at any moment. That Mexico City matchup is going to be high scoring this week, assuming the turf holds up.
All right, Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com. Before we let you run, who are some guys that you like this week, some sleepers, waiver wires, some guys that must be in lineups?
Well, we talked about Ronald Jones and Brian Hill. There's a running back, too, you can pick up and plug and play. Darius Geis is back in action for Washington. He's more of a flex this week, but he's going to be splitting that backfield for Washington. He's a solid flex pickup. At wide receiver, there's a lot to consider. D.D. Westbrook is back. Deebo Samuel is probably the number 1 wide receiver for San Francisco. We got 2 wide receivers in Pittsburgh tonight. James Washington is probably your better play than Deontay Johnson. Cole Beasley has not been mentioned much. He's had a touchdown or 74 yards in 5 of the last 6 games. He's a solid plug-and-play. Philip Dorsett's going to have a good matchup. Russell Gage is getting more action for Atlanta as a flex. And also, if you're looking for future pickups, you got Slayton for the Giants, who are on a bye, and Jacob Hollister, tight end for Seattle. Both those guys can see a lot more action from Week 12 and beyond.
All right, Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com. And, of course, every week we give you your fantasy insight right here on the Sports Bash. Jeff, good luck to you.
Good luck, everybody. Enjoy the games.